Hello and welcome to Shift from Berlin Wharfdale Methodist Church. Dare to dream of a sustainable life. All this talk of sustainability, zero carbon, positive impact. Does it leave you feeling excited about how you can make a contribution towards a better future for all? Or does it leave you cold and thinking, why should I bother? Why should I worry I won't be around in 30, 50, 70, 100 years? So what's the point? Besides, someone else will come up with a genius idea or two to solve these problems. How can my minute contribution to sustainability make an impact? Well, Adrian and Wendy are going to share their thoughts with you today. So let's hear what they have to say as they dare to dream of a sustainable life.
Sustainable Gardening with Wendy. I'm going to show you how to sow some seeds using all recycled materials. So first of all, you need to rummage through your recycling bin and you need to find some trays. So this is from tomatoes and this one's from mushrooms. You'll need some compost. So this is actually our own compost that we only started making it back in July and it's already ready for using. If you've got space in your garden for a compost bin, I definitely recommend it. You'll need some toilet rolls, which I've got some here, and then you'll need seeds. I've chosen to sow some salad leaf and some cabbage, and if I've got time, I'll do cosmos. So first of all, you need to prepare everything. You need to put some drainage holes in the bottom of the container, so an adult might need to help you with this. So I've already done that. Then you need to cut your toilet rolls in half. So that's that one. And I'm going to put those in there. And then I've got some more that I prepared earlier. Okay, now I'm going to fill my trays up with my compost. So a good couple of 2, 3 in there. And flatten it down. And then I'm going to fill up the toilet rolls with this compost. The beauty of the toilet rolls is that when you actually want to plant them out, you can just plant the whole toilet roll as well, because that will just biodegrade. Little creatures. There we go. There, that's ready for putting the seeds in. So I'm going to put the salad leaf in here. These are very, very tiny seeds. I'm just going to sprinkle them just very, very carefully around the edge first and then across the middle, but not too many. What you want to do is sow some of these regularly every week, and then you've got succession. Seal them up. And then I'm going to take my cabbage now. They're a little bit bigger, the seeds for the cabbage. And I'm going to just put 2 in every pot. And when I've got 2 in, I'm going to cover all of the seeds over just with a little sprinkling of compost. Just get my hands in, it's much easier. There we go, that's that one. Some here. So they're all covered. Now the best way to actually water them is to put them in a water bath, which I've got ready here. And something I found out recently is that if you do it this way, I need to put a bit more water in. The water, as it goes up into the compost, will then soak up and it will drag the seeds down into the compost. I'm going to cover these with something to just get that heat. I'm actually going to use an old shower cap that you can sometimes get in hotel bedrooms. Collect those. So everything I've used so far has been recycled. So there you go. Sustainable gardening. I hope you have fun sowing your seeds. I've come in from the garden now. In the photo, you will see that I added labels to the pots and then covered them with the shower caps I mentioned. I took them out of the water and now they're just sitting there in the greenhouse. I used all recycled materials when I sowed my seeds. We try and recycle as much as we can. We compost as much as we can, and we definitely try to put as little as possible into landfill. Over the last few years, we've been trying to reduce our plastic use, buying foodstuffs that are in glass jars rather than in plastic containers, taking our containers to the local waste not shop and filling them with pasta, rice, flour, oil, cleaning materials and such like. And where we can, buying items in glass jars rather than in plastic, and that includes our toothpaste. We recently watched the 5-part documentary called Perfect Planet. Did you watch it? It covered topics such as the wind, water and other key aspects of the world that are important to keep our world functioning healthily. Unfortunately, over time, humans have made so many changes to the world that are negatively affecting these aspects, and Adrian is going to touch on some of them later. Each programme talked about what could end and is likely to happen if we don't stop and alter our behaviour, which was very sobering. However, each programme finished with a story of hope, stories of people who are making positive changes and choices to counteract what humans had previously done to our world. There is hope, and we need to hang on to that, as long as we all pitch in and work together to save our world. Adrian is going to dig deeper into our human impact and what we can do to live a sustainable life.
Our planet has nurtured and sustained life over the last 3.5 billion years, with human beings arriving only around 800,000 years ago. However, it has not all been plain sailing. Over that time, it's estimated that 99% of all species that ever lived on Earth, over 5 billion, are now extinct. There have been 5 mass extinction events, the fifth and most recent being 65 million years ago, when a large asteroid struck Earth, which threw vast quantities of gas, dust and debris into the air, blocking out sunlight, which resulted in 75% of all life, including the non-avian dinosaurs, becoming extinct. Now fast forward 65 million years, and we are probably at the most critical point since then in respect of the sustainability of life on Earth. Significant climate changes have been noticeable in recent decades. Human activities are estimated to have caused approximately 1 degree centigrade of global warming above pre-industrial levels, and that is likely to reach 1.5 degrees centigrade between 2030 and 2052. If it continues to increase at the current rate. That was the subject of a UN special report in 2018, which warned that we may only have 12 years to prevent the worst impacts of climate change, as after 2030 the changes could be irreversible. NASA data shows that the average global temperatures in 2019 were 1 degree centigrade warmer than the 20th century average. In fact, the 5 warmest years in the 1880 to 2019 records have all occurred since 2015. The concentration of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere is the highest it has been in human history. And human population has increased dramatically since 1800, when it was only 1 billion. Now it is 7.7 billion, and it is expected to rise to 9.8 billion by 2050. Many species are in decline and threatened by extinction. The RSPB say 15% of all wildlife in the UK is now threatened with extinction. Deforestation is another contributor to global warming, and according to the UN, an estimated 18 million acres of forest are lost each year. If the current rate of deforestation continues, it will take less than 100 years to destroy all the rainforests on the Earth. 11% of the world's population is currently vulnerable to climate change impacts such as droughts, floods, heat waves, extreme weather events and sea level rise. And climate change has other consequences. The Jaliba Trust is a charity who work in development in rural areas of Mali, a country that has experienced increases in conflicts in the past few years. They say that accelerating climate change in the last 20 years is fundamental to the conflicts. People lived together peacefully until they had to compete with the same resources to survive. Increasing winds carrying sand from the Sahara and blowing away topsoil in a red fog have made land for growing crops much thinner and poorer, and harvests have failed. This has forced farming communities to cultivate crops in pasture areas used by other ethnic groups. In the last decade, so much land has gone under crop cultivation that there is little space left for cattle herding, and livestock have had little to eat. It has also become difficult or impossible for cattle to have access to water points as people cultivate crops all around the water points. This is just one example of the knock-on effects of climate change, but many people's way of life will not be sustainable if climate change is not brought under control, and that means that we all have to change our behaviours. But what can we do that will make a difference? Lots of people think others need to change first. They think that what the UK does will have little effect on its own. It's China, India, USA who have to change first. If they won't change, why should we? It's big business, multinationals, oil companies who need to change, not me. But what each of us does will make a difference, especially if enough of us do it. After the 5p charge on plastic bags in supermarkets was introduced in 2015, within 3 years usage went down by 86%, and there was an estimated corresponding 50% reduction in plastic bag marine litter. People adapted, bought black bags for life, recycled what they had. There are many other examples of people power where the buying or non-buying habits of the public can change the way companies and governments act. Campaigning can also be effective, and in this age it is far easier to get together with other people to put pressure on for change. Greta Thunberg started her climate change protest all on her own. Now it is a movement across all countries involving millions and millions of children. When I was growing up, all the rubbish went into the same bin, and then onto landfill, cans, packaging, food. Admittedly, we did have a compost bin in the garden, but I expect there were many households without even that. Now we are used to sorting our rubbish and we recycle what we can. We have bins for garden waste, plastic, cans, paper, cardboard, and we recycle electrical equipment, paint, batteries, wood, etc. Yes, the government and local authorities have provided some of the facilities and have incentivised us to do it, but it has changed our mindset. And I feel guilty about throwing things away. I wash out freezer bags and reuse them. I try not to use cling film unless absolutely necessary. I try to make sure that clothes, books, etc. are taken to charity shops, and virtually every item in the house that is no longer used or needed, I either put on free cycle or take it to a charity shop or recycling centre, all well before it risks ending up in the bin. But it's not all about recycling. it's also about not over-consuming. The average household in the UK throws away about 1/5 of the food they buy, and household waste makes up around 70% of the total food waste in the UK. And do you really need another top? More jeans, the latest fashion? Jane Fonda announced in November 2019 that she had taken the decision to not buy any new clothes for the rest of her life, and instead will wear something from her, admittedly, probably considerable wardrobe. Lockdown during COVID has restricted our access to shops, except online, and the lack of social events has meant that a lot of clothes have stayed in the wardrobe all year. And even when you need to dress up, it is usually only the top half that you need, because that's all that's visible on Zoom. I have probably worn a fraction of the variety of clothes I would have worn in a normal year, and most of my shoes have just been gathering dust. Comfort has been the key, not style. Now, I'm sure we will all want to dress up again soon and go out and buy new clothes, but I think, for one, I will think twice about buying another shirt that I probably don't need. We have an allotment, and I'll get Jan to give you a quick guided tour now.
Hello, and here we are at number 27, the Millard allotment. So welcome. I'll give you a quick guided tour. First of all, here are two of our compost bins. We've got 4 altogether, great fun, and a huge pile at the moment of raspberry canes which we've just recently pruned. Now, we don't use all of these, but they are really great for recycling because we use them to mark the ends of seed rows, and we also use them for pea sticks. And so they come in really useful, rather than, you know, going to the garden centre and buying canes, which is completely unnecessary. Over here we've got some of our winter produce, which is leeks at the moment. We've just finished all the cabbages and sprouts, so we had quite a nice crop of sprouts this time, and lots of lovely kale. And then moving on over here, this is the bucket that we keep in the kitchen all the time, full of lovely compost, as you can see, which is going to go in our compost bin in a moment, but I'll just show you what's next to it first, because this is very exciting. This is our comfrey soup. Now, if you take the lid off, this absolutely stinks, but it's fantastic as a fertiliser. You can just make it from chopped up comfrey or nettles, so just reuse that. We had a little giggle the other day because the lid was missing, and we thought maybe some teenagers or children might have been down here thinking it was a tub of beer. They'd have got a nasty shock, I think. Anyway, that's our comfrey soup. Water butt here, so we try and obviously reuse all the rainwater that comes off our ramshackle old shed. Moving on, we have little pet names for all the different areas. This is the terrace, and we have to do that because we're on a slope, so we've made it into a terrace. And I think I didn't mention while I was over there, but there's lots of examples. We try to use old shelving if we can to mark edges and to stop the grass growing everywhere. We've tried to make raised beds as well from old scaffolding posts, old scaffolding planks. And then along here, oh, let me fetch the compost. And we'll put it in the bin. So this is going into one of our other compost bins here. And if you want to have a look in here, it's lovely. I'll move out of the way. Fabulous. So it's all rotting down nicely, and it doesn't take long actually to become really nice usable fertiliser. Here's some lovely winter sprouting broccoli that's just about ready to pick now. So we try and have things throughout the year if we can. And I have to say, we're very amateur gardeners, Adrian and I. A lot of what we do is very Heath Robinson, but it works for us and we just have a lot of fun with it and we try to be as sustainable as we can. This is what we've recently named Fruit Avenue. So this is where all our fruit trees are. Red currants, white currants, black currants, and then all the raspberries. We call that raspberry bank down there. Now we have a fantastic arrangement with Viv and Gerard. We give them lots of fruit and they make lots of lovely jam and give us some back and they keep some. So it's a fantastic arrangement. It sustains what we try and do. So that's another way that we try to make it all very sustainable. And then on to the greenhouse. Now the greenhouse, again, we were given this by a long time ago actually by a very helpful gentleman from church. So again, we didn't spend money on a greenhouse, that was a recycled thing. So let's have a little look inside. It's very untidy. This is one of Adrian's very imminent jobs, is to tidy it out and clean it. And inside, if you want to have a look, don't look too closely, it's very untidy. We try and use peat-free compost and which is organic, if we can. And all the plant pots, lots and lots of them, we recycle. So we never throw plant pots away unless they are cracked or broken. And we reuse lots of these as well. We always reuse these. These are great for all sorts of things, using as little seed tray, tubs, or collecting fruit in. So those are just recycled punnets from the supermarket. So that's the greenhouse. So I hope that's given you a bit of an idea how we try and use our allotment as sustainably as we can, and given you a few ideas which I'm sure a lot of you already use. So bye, see you later.
As you can see, we grow lots of different fruits and vegetables. We try to use all our produce, but every year you end up with a glut of something or other. In the past it's been parsnips and cabbages, but this year was courgettes and raspberries. So the challenge was to find 101 ways to use a courgette. They went in everything: soup, stew, chilli, curry, tagine and even cake. And what is unused or fails gets composted anyway and the cycle begins again. We also now have 2 neighbours contributing to our compost bucket, which we keep outside our front door. We try to encourage pollinators by planting flowers such as nasturtiums, and we also have put up a bug hotel on our shed, made by our jam maker Gerard. Now, I'm not trying to tell anyone what they should be doing or criticising them for not being as green as me, or even that all these small personal actions on their own will change the world. I must admit, I still do lots of things that are contributing to global warming, some of which I could reduce or even stop. And we all live in different circumstances and with different time pressures. We each have to do what we can. But I must admit, what I do find helpful is that by trying to be mindful of what I do, I can often find better alternatives. And once you get used to doing things differently, you get into the habit and you do it almost without thinking. Whether or not my lifestyle is sustainable, I don't know, but I'm hoping I'm moving in the right direction. But it's not all about what we consume or what we don't consume. It's also about our mental and spiritual sustainability. As a Christian, my relationship with God needs to be sustainable. It's no good just using him as a parachute, only there as a backup in an emergency. Jesus told a story about a man sowing seeds, and most started growing where they fell. However, the majority did not grow to fruition. For one reason or another, they withered away or were choked by weeds. Their growth was not sustainable. As with all living things, they needed water, light, nourishment, and space to grow. They needed roots to be able to withstand the wind and the rain, the sun and the snow. In the same way, I need to come to God in prayer, to read about him, to talk to others about him, to accept the support of others for help when I am struggling, to walk in nature, to sit quietly and contemplate. A follower of Jesus, Paul, was often in prison for preaching Christianity, but he continued writing letters, encouraging others, and described how content he was even when he was in chains. Because he had faith and a future, because he had a sustained relationship with God through Jesus. He was convinced that his relationship with Jesus was for all time, that it would not be broken even by death, that it was eternally sustainable. Dare we dream?
Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much
Well, did that help you gain a better perspective? I do hope it helped answer some of your questions. Why not share your thoughts on our Facebook page, Shift-Berlin Wharfdale. We'd love to hear from you. Next time, we'll be exploring Dare to Dream of a More Compassionate, Kinder Life, with thoughts and observations from Karen and Jan. It'll premiere on Sunday the 21st of March, and we would love you to join us then. Until then, may you be blessed with opportunities to consider how you may tread more lightly upon this earth, helping us to turn from careless tenants to faithful stewards of this planet, our home.